What up, world? We back in here with one more reaction video, ladies and gentlemen. And today I got a TED Talk coming to the channel. Now, yesterday I reacted to a country version of Jello Ball's Tweakers, and I received a comment that said, "Can blacks think about anything except hood violence and skank females?" And obviously, I don't think about violence on a daily basis, nor skank females. But I understand, I guess, what he's trying to say from the type of content that's produced out to the masses. And I got a TED Talk that discusses that topic a little bit. So if you dig what you hear in this video, do me a favor, share it far and wide. Reporting live from Kansas City, Missouri, 6:06 a.m.
Thank you. This is me. 24 years ago this month. I'm 17 years old, a senior in high school, living in Orlando, Florida. And 2 weeks after this picture was taken, my life went on a tremendous and continues to be on a tremendous journey. 2 weeks after this picture was taken, I dropped out of my private school in the middle of my senior year, moved to a city outside of Atlanta called College Park, Georgia, and enrolled in ministry school. And it was that time that I got a new nickname, and that nickname is White Mike. Now, how I got the nickname White Mike is pretty simple. I arrived at a church that had about 1,000 people, and when people would ask, have you seen Mike? And somebody said, Mike who? Nobody knew my last name. Smith was too hard. So White Mike is who I became. So this is White Mike on the day he graduated from ministry school. This is White Mike teaching in the youth ministry. This is White Mike doing an example on the stage with his pastor. This is White Mike being ordained into ministry. I think you're seeing a pattern. This is White Mike's first roommate when he got there. White Mike at work. White Mike at social gatherings. You can barely see White Mike in there. White Mike with pastors. I just returned from Atlanta to pastors conference. This picture is about 15 years old, and it's the same picture from when I was here yesterday. This is White Mike's wedding party with White Mike's dad, and White Mike has been on quite a journey the past 24 years. Now, in this time, I learned a lot of beautiful things about a lot of beautiful people. I learned a lot of ugly things about myself, and I learned a lot of dark things about the nation in which we live. But I also learned that I, being White Mike, specifically the white part, have a lot of power. White Mike has a question today, and that's this. How come when you turn on the radio in Jacksonville, or New Orleans, or Chicago, or Little Rock, the only people on the radio that talk about how great it is to kill each other are black? How come that exists? 15 stations on a dial, go up, go down. The only people on the radio bragging about getting automatic weapons, gunning each other down.
And so to speak of the topic that this comment said is, why don't they think about anything except hood violence? Well, a vessel can only express outwardly what it consumes inwardly. I was born into an environment that's the music I heard on a daily basis. I didn't know that there was an alternative reality of the world. And we all know how cognitive bias is. And the human brain, it takes 6 times hearing something before your brain will even register that it possibly could be true. So if all I've heard is murder, murder, kill, kill, violence, disruption, and then I hear somebody say, hey, black people, y'all stupid. Hey, black people, you can live a different way. Fight or flight kicks in naturally because that's how the human brain works. So I agree with you that there should be a broader, diverse library of content for us to choose from outside of violence. But if you're that 14, 15, 16-year-old kid, you're going to repeat what you see around you. And if you're watching people get $1 million contracts talking about murder and killing, if you would have came to me when I was 16 and say, Johnny, we got $5 million for you, guaranteed. Another $20 million on the back end. We're going to make you famous. We're going to travel you all around the world. All you got to do is talk about killing other black people. I'm YNW Melly. Wake up in the morning, I got murder on my mind. So you got to understand demographics, right? Like if you grew up in the country, you only going to replicate what you see around you. If you grew up in a trailer park, you only going to replicate what you see around you. And so it is the same in the hood. Now, once you get a certain age, you can step out and view other parts of the world and change your character. You can start reading Neville Goddard and Marcus Aurelius and Ralph Waldo Emerson and Ralph Waldo Tron, and you discover people like Larry Elder and Thomas Sowell and Carter G. Woodson and Booker T. Washington. But when you grow up in the hood, no, you don't hear anything but violence and destruction. So maybe that's why the masses of people live on that frequency. You did?
Are black. This right here is a song. My pastoral vocabulary won't let me read the title, but I will read this. Catch a young black male not paying attention at the red light. With your AK-47, let me see you shoot it. You're a killer, you're a killer, you're a killer, you're a killer black male. Let me see you prove it. Why does this exist? I'll take it even further, because a lot of time racism exists in what we don't know, what we don't see. Where are the white killers on the radio? Where are the white AK-47 shooters? Where are the white drug dealers? Where are the white people on the radio that brag about what it's like to murder witnesses before trial? The truth is, they don't exist.
That'd be crazy to hear, dude.
Why don't they exist? Do white people not kill people? Do white people not use AK-47s to shoot each other? I mean, we know, do white people not do drugs? Do they not deal drugs? Of course they do. But why is it that it doesn't make it to our...
I would say that not all, but definitely a large base of white guys who murder and sell drugs, they're caught up in hip-hop culture as well. From what I've seen in my life, y'all can let me know in the comments below what it's like in your city or where you from. If you got some white boys that was just out here country and toting the hell and riding cows, and next thing you know, they was riding with the chop. But the white guys I've seen in the environment that I grew up in, they end up tatted up like the rest of us. They end up with baby mamas like the rest of us. They grew up in single mother homes like the rest of us. So I think when you don't have anybody to protect you, you're going to gravitate to what's cool, what's popular, what's trending. And for some reason, all of the NFL players push rap music. All of the NBA players push rap music. If you go play 2K right now, you go play Madden right now, I'm sure you hear rap music. I encourage everybody who happens to stumble upon this video to study sound frequency and to study hypnotic rhythm.
Our mainstream radio. Why is it that we don't hear it hundreds of times a day in hundreds of cities across the nation, thousands of plays that say the idea that a black guy would kill another black guy is something to be celebrated, something to be romanticized? And why is it the white people don't do it? And maybe it's because there's no white audience for it, or maybe it's because it's not really marketable, maybe because it's not, can't get sponsors. I don't know why it is. Or maybe it's because it's just not the white man's role. Or maybe when white people get up and talk about being drug dealers and AK-47 killers, maybe it's even sicker than that. Maybe when white people do it, they're accused of acting black. The truth is, in America, black murder is normal. Black murder is normal. The idea that a black man or a black woman would be involved in a homicide, either as a perpetrator or a victim, is so common, so broadly accepted that it basically goes unnoticed. The truth of the matter is, black families are affected by homicide at rates of 10 times their white counterparts. There will be more death in the form of homicide involving black people this year than any other form of violence that dominates our national conversation. More than school shootings, mall shootings, mass shootings, workplace shootings, lovers' trysts that turn violent and bloody, even more than in war and in terrorism. No one will lose their life at greater numbers than black Americans involved in violence.
And then you'll hear a rebuttal to that say, we need gun control. No, we need emotional regulation. We need gun safety courses. And we need to change the content that's produced. Once again, Proverbs 23:7, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Tupac said, pay attention to when the beat becomes more important than the lyrics. So all I'm concerned is, and then I get into a hostile situation. I've been at the basketball court on 31st and Purcell. I'm just hooping, and the car drives down the street, and they hanging out the car shooting, and you got to instantly fight or flight. Do I take off running, or do I drop to the ground? Jay, his son was killed in the drive-by. Chris, his son was killed in the drive-by. These are dudes that I grew up hooping with on a daily basis. Kadeem is dead. Duran is dead. Mark is dead. Mark Shears is dead. Stacy is dead. Gary is dead. Antonio is dead. Terrell is dead. These were all men that I went to school with, played basketball with, laughed with, joked with. But because our music is hyper violent, hyper angry, and there is a lack of emotional regulation and control, and we got to be honest about that, because most men are raised just by their mama, so they walk around in a male's body, but they got female emotions, and they get themselves in a situation where split second is gone. As T Grizzly said, you ain't no shooter if you can't do it on no molly, and that's why so many of the homies wake up the next day crying in jail, because they don't even know what they did and realize they done threw their life away.
Now, when you talk about what's going on in one segment of society and somehow tie it to what's going on someplace else, you kind of lose people, they detach. This is our unknowing. Prejudice, discrimination, and racism are not the same. We know prejudice, it exists in human hearts and minds. Discrimination exists in hands and policies, but racism is neither in hearts and minds, nor is it really in policies. As a matter of fact, it doesn't take action to keep racism going, it takes inaction. It doesn't take hearts and minds to keep racism going. It actually have to keep things out of people's mind. Racism is like the millstone that churns along in the background. It just goes generation in and generation out and keeps turning out the same generational outcomes. Racism is like the nicotine stains left on the walls after the smoking tenants move out. They take the couch, they take the clock, they take the picture, but the evidence that they've been there still remains. Now, when I speak of black murder being normal,
See, I don't look at it from the perspective of racism, right? Because I understand that most of these labels aren't owned by white people. Most of these networks are not owned by white people. So it would be disingenuous of me to say that they're the ones that are behind this content. You know, there's a YouTube channel called Real Black, and there's a documentary you want to check out on there, how a certain group of people created Hollywood. And Malcolm X said that, you know, we have a common oppressor. And I've always said when black Americans and white Americans can look at each other and say, hey, wait, you're not really the problem. That's when the real war in America is going to start. You know, so the devil's greatest trick is to make you feel like he doesn't exist. And that's what's going on right now. It's been going on, I want to say, you know, probably since the 60s. There's a book called Color, Communism, and Common Sense by Manning Johnson that you should read. But in the words of Frederick Douglass, knowledge makes a man unfit to be a slave, and once you learn to read, you will forever be free. But it's all propaganda.
I'm talking about the combination of commonality and palatability. You know, black murder in our country is not only common, it's not only frequent, but it's an idea that we celebrate. It's an idea that we say is okay. We actually make heroes and out of the notion, heroes out of people that trivialize and romanticize it. How common is black murder? Well, in some demographics in the United States, it's very common. According to the CDC, they release a report every year called the LCOD, leading cause of death. And every year, it's been this way year in and year out for the past decade.
And also just simple stuff, right? When we were kids, we looked up to Batman, Superman, Spider-Man. Hell, I thought the Power Rangers was super dope. You know, Dragon Ball Z. As an urban kid, I really didn't ask for Tupac as a role model. Just by the time I got 10 or 11, everybody in the environment put Tupac up there like God. I didn't ask for Biggie as a role model. The kids of the next generation, they're not asking for Nipsey Hussle as a role model. That's just what they given to by their parents. These young kids not asking for King Von as a role model. Like when you understand the mindset of this inner city, you realize you got children raising children. Broken people trying to raise broken people. So they hold on to whatever makes them feel good. And because this music is your blackness, quote unquote, not knowing that's not really your culture, that's somebody else's. That's all you know. But nothing external could ever add validation. So if broken people can destroy broken people, then I truly believe healed people can help other people heal. But you got to let go of those false dreams, false hopes, and that low vibrational content that's given to you from the world. Go seek out what you love to do. Go improve yourself day by day. And it's like when somebody pee in a swimming pool, the change don't happen instantly, but over time, you let go of your negative vices and you embrace the good ones that can help benefit your life abundantly.
As far back as they list on their site, black males ages 15 to 34, the number one cause of death is homicide. The number one cause of death. For white males, it's number 3. And when you hear that, you instantly go, well, yeah, I mean, that would seem right. I mean, I hear of black on black crime, right? Hear about urban crime. So I guess, yeah, number 1 to number 3, I mean, it's a problem, but it's really not that bad. But the devil is always in the details. The truth of the matter is that if I were to take everybody that dies in this year, every black male 15 to 34, and I brought them into a room December 31st, said, all of you have made it to the afterlife. And I want to take a quick survey. How many of you got here by cancer? A few voices would say, me. How many of you got here by auto accidents? Me. How many of you died of a heart attack on an athletic field? Me. And I said, how many of you were gunned down by another human being? And half the room would raise their hands.
And I would say, if you ask the question right after that, how many of y'all are truly hardcore gangsters? None of them will raise their hands. These are boys that I grew up with. They were babies. They was learning to crawl and walk. Nobody is born a gangster or a thug or a killer. You have to look around and say, if this isn't brainwashing, what is it? Is this group of individuals just genetically born to start murdering each other after a certain age, or is there something deeper going on? Read the book Propaganda by Edward Bernays. I grew up in the hood of the hood of the hood my whole life. Never got into guns. I had a daddy, though. It was drive-bys on the block. We lived on 51st. It was a shooting. I remember I went to Kansas City Middle School of Arts. My daddy would walk me to school, and then after school, I would have to stand there, and then my daddy would walk me home because it was always people shooting. He didn't want, if it was there, he wanted to be able to protect me. I can remember my mama waking me up and putting me in the bathtub because they was doing drive-bys. Nate got shot on my front porch, and I lived on 27th Street. I done been there. So it isn't just because you grow up in an urban environment that you have to become a product of your environment. It's when you have no guidance, no role model. Speaking of white Mike, Mike Bobbitt, my pastor, rest in peace. He used to come pick us up every Monday in his van and take us down to Milestone Youth Academy on 12th Street. And he'd go get all us from the hood. I was on 27. Juan was in the 40s. Diesel was in the 60s. He used to be at 12th Street, 27, Click Clack, TSG, all the gangs. We used to get together, BME, all that. And we used to have to read the Bible for an hour before we can hoop. And though some of the individuals that's around there is dead already, the masses of us, we still here and we productive men and fathers. So it's possible to rise above your environment. However, when 80% of kids are raised to a single mama, man, you see the effects of it right in front of your face.
Every time I show this information, people always say, well, if the number 3 cause of death for white males, what is the number 1 cause of death? And without fail, year after year, it's called unintentional injuries.
They like to have fun.
Falling off a four-wheeler, or crashing a go-kart, or bungee jumping without paying attention to.
Hey, that's true. When I worked at Sprint, I had some white coworkers who used to go mudding all the time. And that's their culture. That's what they do. They were raised to do that. However, about myself, I can say when it came New Year's time, my daddy was taking me outside to shoot guns in the air. Now, I'm not saying that's right or wrong. I'm saying you are a product of the individuals you were raised around. And that's why you got so many young boys killing each other and talking about murder and drugs. Because when they get on their social media news feed, what do you see? What do LeBron James be rapping out? That's all that's promoted. So unfortunately, until somebody steps up and promotes something different, you got the blind leading the blind.
Would raise their hands. Every time I show this information, people always say, well, if the number 3 cause of death for white males, what is the number 1 cause of death? And without fail, year after year, it's called unintentional injuries, accidents, falling off a four-wheeler, crashing a go-kart, or bungee jumping without paying attention to, knots and things like that. And so basically, the American story is white kids are dying because they're clumsy, and black kids are dying because they're gunned down. Chicago, just like New Orleans, just like Jacksonville, just like Little Rock, how common is black murder? The past 3 years, there's been about 1,270 victims of homicide, 2012, all the way up to this week in 2014. And of those victims, 64 were white.
It's profitable.
Now, this transcends the simple diagnosis that we have. Well, it's education, it's poverty, it's family structure. As you study it locally, nationally, as you study it decade after decade, it doesn't follow any of those easy answers. Something much deeper and much darker is at work. How common is black murder? Well, in my entire life, 1973 to 2014, there has never been a year since I've been breathing that blacks have not been overrepresented in homicide. Never been a year that you can go into a morgue and you don't see blacks overrepresented. It's the story of America. It's certainly the story of America in my life.
To piggyback off what he's saying, here in Kansas City, I was born in 89, and the homicide rates keeps increasing year after year after year. But the spin on that is they always tell you that you need to ban guns. Kansas City's been run by Democrats since 91. They got all kind of gun laws. Chicago got all kind of gun laws. Yet the violence and the murder rate keeps increasing, so there's not a correlation. You take the weapons away, somehow, some way, these young boys still gonna get violent. So you got to change the content they're consuming, or you're gonna keep getting the same results. Tupac said it's time for us to change the way we eat, change the way we think, and change the way we treat each other. See, the old way wasn't working, so we're going to need a new way if we plan to survive.
Lifetime. My question is, what will be the first year that we see it a 1-to-1 ratio? I mean, if it's somewhere between 7-to-1 and 10-to-1 now, I mean, when will it be 1-to-1? We would consider it a huge national victory if we ever got it to 5-to-1, to 4-to-1, to 3-to-1. Violent crime has gone down over the past 40 years. People say, isn't that great? No, because prison has gone up over the past 40 years. And no matter the fact that violent crime has gone down or prison has gone up, what's never closed is the gap. There's always that gap, 6-to-1, 7-to-1, 8-to-1. Usually it's the smartest person in the room at this point that yells out from the back, "Sir, are you saying you want more white people killed?" And then all of a sudden I realize that's why we die in clumsy accidents. All right, here we go. Now, The real question is, why is this going on? Why is this the story of my life? Why is this the story of my country? And everyone in this room falls into one of two categories. You're in one of two categories. Either there's something wrong with them, some core deficiency in black people, they're just prone to violence, and we use anecdotal evidence to talk about that, or there's something wrong with us. And depending on what category you fall in, if there's something wrong with them, you point fingers. Hey, you need to do something.
Everyone should read the book Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill. It takes a lot of mental energy to overcome your environment. Kids aren't strong enough to have their own mental dominance and faculties. They're going to be influenced by the adults around them. So once again, when 80% of kids are born to single mother homes, what type of content is that mother consuming? What's her attitude like? Because personally, you go to any grocery store or gas station, most women, when they out, they got an attitude. They go from yelling at their kids to smiling in your face. So as you a kid raised with this mean-ass mama, think about how much anger you got inside of you that's just pending. And you can't hit your mama back. You can't talk back to your mama. So you just sitting there just mad, just boiling. But you know who you can hit? This 12-year-old kid. However, if you hit him, he beat you up, you get laughed at. But you shoot him, you a legend. See, all of this comes up from pent-up anger. We are energy at the end of the day. That's all we are. We release energy, and you can release that energy into a girl, or you can release that energy into something meaningful. But if you keep all that energy bottled up and pent up, boom, eventually you explode. And these young boys have never had a voice. We all know what it's like to go to daycare and elementary, and you sit down on this desk and you can't move and you can't be yourself. I am the man I am because I grew up with my daddy. I used to be outside throwing rocks and doing all the ignorant little stupid stuff. But if I was one of these boys that was neutered by my mama, I still got that male energy. That testosterone is still flowing through my body. And I'm pissed because I ain't got no father, because I'm poor, because I'm in this low quality environment. Who do I take this anger out on? You know, Nipsey Hussle said it best. It's wild that when you think about murder, most of these young boys are riding around looking for somebody to look just like them. They ride through the white neighborhood, ride through the Hispanic neighborhood, just to pull a gun out and point it at somebody that looks exactly like them. It's like looking at yourself and taking your own life. But think about how much anger you got to have. See, there was a period in my life when I couldn't look myself in the mirror, when I was super angry, super hostile. And now I can look myself in the mirror and say, self, I love you. Self, I'm proud of you. But I was broken, coming from the broken environment. Project baby, Section 8, food stamps. I remember getting on the bike, riding around looking for the mailman. Hey, you got my mama's welfare check? I thought it was normal to live like that. My kids will never know that experience. They go to private school where they eat organic, high-quality food and all that. So my kids won't be the black kids promoting murder and violence and twerking and all that. However, me coming from that environment, a lot of my friends are still that way. And a lot of my friends are raising their children to be that way. But the definition of ignorance is a lack of knowledge. And if someone else controls the flow of information, then someone else indirectly can control how intellectual you are. Unless you learn to read and think for yourself, as Frederick Douglass said. But the mass of people, they don't do that. They scroll social media and they listen to music and they entertained by sports. And you don't know a distraction is a distraction until it has completed its job distracting you. So I'm going to leave the TED Talk right here. You can go check it out. It's very informational. But as I said, man, if hurt people can hurt people, heal people can heal people. And I like conversation and dialogues like this because I don't find any question offensive. And a lot of people really are scared to talk about the topic of race. And there's a lot of things that I would see white people do and say, wonder why they do that. I'm glad that somebody asked this question. Why do black people speak about these things so much? Because where attention goes, energy flows. And a lot of people don't have the confidence and the self-esteem to individuals to talk about consciousness. You know what I mean? To talk about neuroplasticity in the brain, to study Neville Goddard, to study Bob Proctor, to study Earl Nightingale. That's not sexy. That's not cool. But just because of what the masses is presenting to you with this murder, kill stuff, man, that's not all. That's just the surface. There's so much under that. I promise you, it's probably a lot of people like me in this world that's very intellectual, that's very thoughtful, that's very deep. But you think they about to put somebody like me on mainstream? Hell no. I'm too influential. I'm gonna encourage you to be a better person. I'm 1% better every day, and that's not what the society wants. Once again, they want you sad with anxiety, depression, and they want you looking at him like, damn, why he got all them cars? Damn, why he got all them girls like that? Damn, why he got all that money? I ain't living like that. They want you in a state of emptiness. That's why porn is everywhere. Because if I can keep you empty, you never let that energy rise up, and it never reaches your brain, and you never start thinking and growing rich. Shout out Napoleon Hill. But anything the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. So just get you a pen, get your paper, and start writing. But turn off all the distractions in the world and focus on you until the focus on you. But a lot of this is propaganda. I mean, Jello Ball, much respect to his song. He grew up in Chino Hills. However, do you see how powerful music is? So you can grow up in Chino Hills and you still want to attach yourself up and get a mouthful of gold. So if you can be influenced in the suburbs, imagine what this does to the kids in the projects who ain't got nothing. Nothing. But a gun. You get what I mean? You see the correlation, right? Like for a Jello Ball, he can cosplay the money, cars, girls side of black culture. And it's cool. But when you poor, nigga, you ain't got that money. But I got this. Anybody can get a strap. Anybody. No serial number or any of that. So if you want to understand why these low quality people are doing these things, man, it's all out of brokenness. It's all out of emptiness. And once you learn to love yourself, you look around and you love the world around you. And I hope one day that everybody can love themselves the way I love myself. Because I come from the creator and I know he put me here to create, as well as you watching this video, especially if you'd have made it 26 minutes in. But this is my response to the question of, can blacks think about anything else except hood violence and skank females? Yes, they can. But hypnotic rhythm is a very powerful thing. And if every radio station, every TV station is repeating the same content over and 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 over, it's why people run around saying Trump is a fascist and Trump is a Nazi. You get what I'm saying? I love you all. Have a super mega awesome day. Never be too proud to pray. And in the middle of this weird, negative world that wants us divided, man, we all just people. We all just spirits inside these human fleshes. You dig what I'm saying? So shine your light, give your art to the world. You know what you love to do. You know what's important to you. Don't go with the flow. Be the flow. And if you're tired of the low vibrational narratives in this world, then put out some content that fights back and pushes back against them. One video at a time. We go. Peace.